The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business, from $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Ardor SEO.
Hello, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Icons of Real Estate podcast. With us today, we have Sam Powell. She's a realtor since 2002, and after a decade at Dreamtown Realty, Sam joined eXp in April 2021, and now leading the Pride Homes Chicago team. She's a mentor, coach, and a big presence in the Women's Council of Realtors and Chicago Association of Realtors Foundation. Welcome to the show, Sam.
Hey, good morning. Great to see you.
Great to have you here. For our listeners, I think they need to understand that it is right now the 9th of June, and I've been talking with Sam since maybe January to have Sam on the podcast, and we finally made it.
It's awesome. It's awesome to be here. It's really great to see you in person as well. This is the beauty of technology in today's world, right?
Exactly. After being pen pals.
Exactly.
Okay, Sam, so tell us, this is usually how we start the podcast. We start with the real estate journey. So please do tell us.
Yeah, so I, before real estate, I was working for a company that bought and digitized commercials of all things. So people are like, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, I watch commercials all day. And it was a true statement. So that was kind of a fun lead into conversations. But I had a really good buddy. He's still in the industry right now. His name's Bill Caduto. He's a managing broker for Baird and Warner, which is a boutique company here in Chicago as well. And he got into real estate and was like, you have to join me. And I was like, no, I'm not, I'm not into sales. I love you, but and I trust you, but I'm just not sure that's like the right path for me. And he's like, listen, I'm just going to need you to give it a try. We'll work it out. So I take the class, and I had this mindset about taking the real estate class that almost like a college course. It wasn't that far removed from college for me. And so I was just like, let me just learn about the industry so that when I go to buy my first house, like I feel informed. It's like when I bought my first car, I didn't feel so informed. So I was just like, hey, let's just take that lesson and notch it up a bit on a more expensive purchase. So I take the class and, pass the state and federal, and nervous as heck, because I'm just like, wow, that's a lot. Real estate is a lot. You take the course and you're just like, wow, there's a lot of moving parts in here. And so I joined the industry, and what I learned really quickly was that I'm not really selling real estate, or that's how it came across to me. I learned quickly that what I'm selling is my ability to help a consumer, right? To educate a consumer who's business, not unlike myself when I was in their shoes, just wanting to learn about the business. And so I sort of took that piece to heart, and am way more focused on educating, in the respect that one of my favorite go-to lines to any of my consumers turned clients is, I can't make you sign shit. You're so welcome, right? In today's day and age, you can click and sign in seconds, but we can't make you do any of that. So our role here is to get you to a line in the sand that you need to cross, and that you're willing to cross it comfortably because you feel like an educated consumer. So that was a game changer for me, because when I got my business cards, I'm like talking to my wife, and I'm just like, what am I supposed to do with these? Because I have no confidence in the industry, right? I'm just like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know where I'm going to find clients, because I'm not a native to Chicago. I came here via college from Rochester, New York, where I met my partner, now wife, Jen Thompson. And I was just like, how am I going to find clients when I don't have confidence in the industry? I have no idea what I'm doing. And I don't even know the first questions to ask people to get them to give me an opportunity. So I went to the skill set that I already had, which was some layout and design, some photography background. My degree happens to be in photography from the Rochester Institute of Technology. And I just started building a flyer, and every month I'd go to communities where people I wanted to serve were hanging out in coffee shops and restaurants. And I would go and pin up my little flyers, or tape my little flyers, or put them on a counter with permission. And that's where I got my first at bat was, someone came, grabbed my flyer, and the first voicemail, like I fondly remember in my career, was this really great lady who called and basically said, I saw your little flyer and I'm looking to buy a house and I'd like to talk to you. And that was the launch of it for me, was take what you already know and what you're already doing and find a way to incorporate it into your launch in your business, whatever that business is, because your ancillary skills that you've learned along the way are going to serve you if you just think about it or look at it through a different lens. So I found that to be kind of a powerful way for my journey. And then it just slowly trickled from there, right? It becomes a very quick referral business opportunity. People that know and love and trust you will share you. And so that was sort of how it sort of led into me in my first launch in the industry.
Nice. And it was that simple, simple as a flyer in the coffee place.
Yeah, as crazy as it might seem, right? And then I just was consistent about it, right? So I would just every month do the same thing. And eventually I had a friend who was looking for some side hustle money. And so I would prepare them a kit. Like, here's the flyers, here's the Scotch tape, here's the pins, depending on the boards. And I would meet them at the Starbucks in the community, and I'd hand them their little stuff. I'd sit there and work. They'd come back. I'd buy them a meal. I'd thank them with, compensation, and then I'd see them a month later, right? So the other thing that became very important early on is just this concept of leverage. Like, who do you know, and how can you leverage them in a way that's meaningful for both of you?
Exactly. And you already on Dreamtown when you're talking about this flyers, or not
yeah,
yet?
Interestingly enough, no. This is EXP is my 5th real estate company, as it were. So the company I joined right out of the gate was a training program. So that's where I met Bill. Well, that's where Bill and I did our first initial training, and it was a very intensive training. And looking back, I don't regret it at all. It was a lot of work. We had to be every Monday at 7 a.m. at this one hotel in this conference room for our meetings, for our trainings. And let's just face it, that feels like a nightmare. I'm an independent contractor, and yet I have to be up at like 5 to get to this thing at 7 every Monday and be with my peers. But what they really trained us on were some of the very important basics. And so that was sort of the win and the takeaway for us. And so then I took that knowledge and went to Baird & Warner as my second company. From Baird & Warner, actually went to Keller Williams. From Keller Williams, I went to Dreamtown. And from Dreamtown, just over a year ago now, I moved over here to EXP with you guys.
Yeah,
so it's interesting, and I was.
It's been a ride. Is this are we going to stick with this one?
Well, the interesting thing is, like, early on in the industry, you'd hear stories about how an agent's leaving your company, and then agents are coming to your company, and I was just like of this mindset of, why would you do that? Like, it didn't make sense to me at the time. I was just like, I'm not going to be that kid that just moves around and moves around. And then, of course, foreshadowing, that's exactly the kid I became, right?
Yeah.
And what I will say is the most beneficial part of all of that is learning how to exit a company, like with grace and with the relationships still in hand. And from an independent contractor perspective, with a strong exit strategy, right? So what I learned in joining and leaving the first company, I absolutely parlayed into conversation into the second company and had a stronger contract and a better exit plan and a better mindset about how to ensure with technology, right? This is back in 2002, 2003, when I joined the industry. We were already really heavy tech based. And so having your own cell phone number, not using the landline of the company, having your own electronic fax, right? Because we're still talking about faxes at that time, but having your own independent solution that wasn't tied to a company brand. And same thing with an email, right? So that you could pick up and move your company that you're representing, meaning yourself, without having to feel, and I don't want to use a word that isn't what I mean, but not feeling like handcuffed to the company, right? Mm-hmm. I can't leave because it's the only phone number and email and fax I'm using are company based. So early on, I was educating my peers from my first exit, because I left within the first year, was these things are really important. So get yourself an email address that's just yours. So I've been asked for Sam at Gmail since 2000.
Yeah, and this is a very simple thing that sometimes people forget, and they're using the company email and as I said, the landline. And then if they end up moving, they may be getting leads or receiving communications from that, and they're not getting that. So that's why no matter the brokerage that you're into, you always need to have that personal business side, or like your own personal brand.
Yeah, absolutely. Because that's it just works with the technology and the landscape of technology that we're in. Not unlike keep your longest credit card forever, right? Because it helps your credit score and your credit history. The same is true with like an email address and a phone number. If you keep those bad boys forever, then you don't have to worry about re-educating everyone on how to reach out to you, right? It's a consistency. So I like
Exactly.
that. I like that about it a lot. And I was also very early on adamant about being as digital as possible. Like in 2002, electronic signatures became legal in real estate the same year I joined the industry. And I don't think that there's any, I think that was meant to happen. I think that the universe put that together for me because very quickly I was just like, tired of carrying around manila folders full of papers. And I was just like, listen, in order for me to be holding this piece of paper, like where did it start? Where was it born? And we all know in order for you to print it out, it has to be on someone's computer somewhere. So why even print it out if it's not necessary? So I kept trying to find ways to not print, find ways to not have to have these resources outside of a digital space. And so in 2006, so 4 years into my career, I went 100% paperless in my real estate business. And it became so clear to me that I could have done that as early as 2002 when I stepped into the industry, because we have all of the technology and the resources and, Adobe PDF, let's face it, it's, sort of a gift to all of us from the digital gods in a way. So that's really been a game changer for me, being able to just grab my laptop and work anywhere in the country, anywhere in the world. As long as I can get Wi-Fi, I can function with confidence. And so that sort of became my mainstay, is how do I put myself in environments where I have the synergy and the energy I'm looking for? How can I insert myself around humanity that might be looking for a resource like myself? So branding, I started branding like a champ and working remote. So, I love the idea of an office you can go into, camaraderie, resources. And I also didn't like that I didn't feel as productive or successful in that environment because I'm helping my peers. And I love that. I love pouring back into our peers in our industry. And at the same time, you're not going to give me referral business sitting next to me. So what if I took that same mindset and worked from a Starbucks or a local coffee shop or, a restaurant that I like, some outdoor space on beautiful days, and brand what I'm wearing, right? So I brand my shirts, I brand my wall, I brand my laptop, I brand all of my technology, even down to something as minute as the name of your Wi-Fi. So all of my Wi-Fis that I travel with, my phone is a hotspot, my tablet's a hotspot. Wherever I'm at, obviously there's a hotspot, but I changed the name of mine to read askforsam.com-realtor. So that now everyone's looking for Wi-Fi at all times. So they see there's a realtor in the space, right? No big deal. But then the branding that matches that on my laptop, I've had people approach me and say, hey, I've got a real estate question. Do you mind if I asked you? And because I'm willing to be on, because I'm marketing in such an intentional way that I'm wanting for those questions. Like that's one of the purposes of it. And so that's really served me in a way. Airports, constantly it happens at airports and at real estate conferences. The twist is my peers will be like, hey, Sam, can I hop on your hotspot, on your Wi-Fi? I need to knock this thing out. And the Wi-Fi at the conference is terrible. And so there's so many layers of relationships that are built out of just such a simple shift in a mindset of what should I call my Wi-Fi?
No, but that's a cool idea. But do people come and ask you, first of all, how do people know it's you? Like, because they see it on their phones, right? But then they look around. It's not that easy.
Yeah, this is what makes it a little easier.
Okay.
So I try to make it very clear that I am that realtor that's attached to that Wi-Fi name.
Okay, and so I understand, because here at the podcast, at least it's my interpretation on doing the questions, right? But it's either for me or the audience, like I really like to understand everything. So it's like, Is it an open source Wi-Fi, or do they need to enter some type of password?
Yeah, they would need to enter a password, right? So it's just my own secure Wi-Fi. And I encourage people to travel with at least one or two of their own personal Wi-Fis, just because of the securities that you have that other people don't. Like I can tap into a free Wi-Fi, but we know that that's also very attractive to those that are trying to skim credit card numbers and important data off of technology. So I encourage us to be as careful as possible about what Wi-Fi's you're connecting to. So having your own just gives you a little extra protection than even like a Starbucks Wi-Fi as an example. So that's my like third choice. My first choice is my own personal on my phone. My second choice is I have a burner phone. I have a second phone that's AT&T. So I have a Sprint Wi-Fi and an AT&T Wi-Fi because I found in traveling around the country that for a long time, Verizon was the best solution. So we also have a Verizon hotspot, which my wife tends to use. But this way, no matter where we are, we with confidence have a better ability to function because I can't handle that anxiety and stress of I promised someone something and now I can't physically do it because I can't get to a strong enough signal. Sure. Yeah. So being your own backup plan for that, I find great success and pride in knowing that I've got enough to be dangerous to knock it out, right? And in our industry, like our smartphones, how amazing and practical is that with cloud storage? Every single document that's important to any single client of mine, I can access right from my phone. I'm a big Dropbox fan from the onset of that company. And I'm a big .loop fan because of their interest in building it for us as realtors to use. And so with those two technological solutions, I have everything I need to function. And then, of course, some sort of contact management solution as simple as Gmail or as sophisticated as like a KV Core. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that you're really passionate about your systems and technologies. And at least thank you for bringing that idea of the Wi-Fi. I think we haven't heard that on the podcast yet. And whoever is listening, I think they are already going to their settings to change something up. So thank you for that.
Right. I love it. Yeah, one of the things I'm known for around the country and some of my travels and speaking is I love sharing. I love sharing nuggets. I love sharing ideas. I love hearing ideas from other people. I think that's just that sharing is so important that we don't need to live on an island and keep all of our toys close to us. That sharing them only allows what you're already doing to grow and be enhanced by having other people do it and use it and then share back and reflect with you. Now you have an opportunity to use it differently, right? And so I've always sort of had that mindset. And so one of the presentations I give is titled something as simple as 45 nuggets in 45 minutes with Sam Powell. So if an organization is like, listen, we got 60 minutes, what would you like to do with that? I'm just like, how about 60 nuggets in 60 minutes with Sam Powell? And so depending on the time that they need filled, I can fill that with as many nuggets as they want to give me the time to fill. And then I'll just do like a slideshow with a timer, and every minute, no matter where I am mid-sentence, I always tease, I'm just going to stop mid-sentence and go to the next slide. And if you want to know anything more about that previous slide, hang out after and we'll continue the conversation. Relationship building.
Yeah, they'll be like, okay, Sam, about nugget number 47. I had a question.
Exactly. Yeah, no, totally. And of course, I always try to jam in more than the 45 nuggets as well. So that gets a little bit difficult if people can't keep up with your pace of speed and speaking, right? So I try to, from time to time, be a little conscious about slowing it down, but my natural state is pretty fast.
Yeah. And I remember when I was preparing the interview back in February, I think you had one of these presentations coming up, and I was actually going to ask this question, but then I removed it because it's not February anymore. But yeah, I was going to say that if you can get like at least like one nugget out of the 45, like what's your go-to nuggets when you go to these presentations?
Well, the hotspot one is one of my favorite ones. And then I'm adding a new one. So I'm going to share a new one that's not even made it into my presentation yet. Perfect. And so I get a text message from someone, and I know it's a peer, I know it's a realtor, but they're not in my database. And so I'm just like, man, and I don't want to ask them who they are. And in scrolling up in the conversations that we've had, it's not revealing enough to me to tell me who it is. So now I'm feeling some kind of way about it. So I'm just like, all right, we're going to figure this out. Remember back in the day of 411 when that was a useful resource and we could, call and get someone's phone number or have a phone number and get someone's name? Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't work so well in our, technological world landscape today. So if I Google the phone number, all it gives me are opportunities to pay a service to tell me whose phone number that is. And I was like, there's got to be a way to figure this out. Here's your solution. Plug in the phone number into Google and then immediately go to images. And then if it's a realtor, which in this case I knew it was going to be, guess what's showing up under their phone number? A ton of photos that look like, I don't know, a property that's for sale or has been for sale at some point in their career. Click on one of those images and guess where it takes you? To the site where it was marketed and reveals the realtor whose listing it is. So I was able to find out whose phone number it was by finding one of their photos that their phone number was linked to. So that would be my recommendation. Same with a customer or a consumer. Throw their cell phone number in there. I know there's sites, there's services for that. And back in the day, there was one that, anyway, it was an acronym, but it was backwards. It basically revealed who someone was. But even a consumer, if you threw their number in and went to images, there's a strong chance there might be something associated if their phone number is linked to their social media in any way, as an example. So, but peer-to-peer, for sure, it's a sure win nugget. But for a consumer, I haven't banged on it enough to be dangerous, but I like it in concept.
Yeah, I remember when we were talking about that. I think there was some type of app that you could put the number and it will give you the Facebook profile because everyone uses the number. But as you said, with GDPR nowadays, Mark Zuckerberg being almost behind bars on this, that's why it's a bit hard now to access this sensible information, But I think what you're telling here on the podcast, I don't think it's illegal, it's
no, for sure not.
Googling someone's number and then going to images. Like, I don't see that being illegal. So yeah, I think that's very interesting.
He's like, I'm not an attorney, but during this podcast, we want to keep it on the up and up. And so I do believe that what the Sam Powell is speaking of is not illegal. So people go ahead and bang on it.
I love to put a disclaimer after this,
That's right. Well, I always tease even when I take the stage. I'm like, I come with an asterisk. It's fine print on the bottom. It's white on white text in any email. You just have to highlight everything to find the fine print. Just kidding.
But it was a good nugget. It was another good nugget. But I think it works better with realtors, right? Rather than with customers.
Or a lender. Yeah. Any affiliate industry partner, their phone numbers are linked to them somewhere that's meaningful. And so images, it seems to be the newest trick that I've come across. So yeah, I'd love for people to share it and bang on it and let me know their success stories.
Perfect. But yeah, now we are on your success story, Sam. And I was going around and I saw that you were saying, like, I'm an educator, not by education, but by style. And like, what does this mean?
Yeah. So, I think we learn, like, if I think back to like the professors that I was most drawn to or did the best in, it was their personality in the front of the room that made a big difference in how they delivered the content. And so that always resonated with me. Like, if I didn't like the instructor, I didn't do as well in the class. If I liked the instructor, I would do amazingly well in the class. And as weird as that might be, I know I'm not alone in that space, right? Because every time I feel I'm some kind of personal victim of my own making, I learn in conversation that so many of us are wired the same way. And so just embrace it. And so that's how I sort of became on the front line when I was gifted some opportunities to speak early on in my volunteer career, because that's how it started, right? Let me say this, because there's a nugget here that I want people to hear. I didn't start giving back into my industry or our industry in a meaningful way until mid my career, right? So almost 10 years in before I started sort of pouring back into the industry. And once I started volunteering for the Women's Council of Realtors, which is a national organization, and our local Chicago Association of Realtors, once I started being intentional about surrounding myself with other like-minded people, servant leaders, it made a world of a difference for me. On a confidence level, like, yeah, I'm pouring into you right now, like I'm a confident being, and this is true. And the reality also is that I wasn't always this way, or it was subversive, and that it really started to, I started to come out of my shell and feel more like my true self by being in a volunteer role and being handed a microphone and asked to speak to a crowd. But early on, I had zero confidence even in that. Like, I would like lose my shit on stage and not like just pale, don't know what I'm saying, don't know what my next line is. And it took sarcasm to bust me out of that. I would start taking the stage and I would say something like, at some point up here, I'm just going to freeze. I'm not going to know when or how it's going to happen, but my brain's trying to keep me ready. I'm trying to keep both of these things going at the same time. And so I would say the one of you who's listening at the time that that happens, just tell me the last thing you heard me say, and I promise I'll come right back to you. And so as soon as I would say that, it stopped happening, right? Because I was more prepared for it myself, and I had prepared the audience for the potential of it happening. And then it basically stopped happening. It'll happen in just smaller chunks now. But my real want for people to hear is choose, if you're interested, choose to pour back into your industry early in your career, just because of the personal development, the professional development, the synergy and the camaraderie and the friendships that you'll make with your peers and these ancillary business company, people that you work with. It made a world of difference for me. Doors started opening. I've had the honor and opportunity to travel and speak around the country, and most recently got to speak internationally. So I get to say, I'm an international speaker, and it all started with giving back into my industry and not being attached to the outcome, right? I wasn't doing it for a resume. I wasn't doing it because I saw myself as a national leader in an organization into the future. I just wanted other people like myself to grow together and raise the bar in our industry together by educating each other and sharing with each other. So my style on the stage is very much like me 100% of the time. It's the only industry where I found, not unlike football, where there is a role for everyone, every body type, fast people, slow people, rounder people, skinnier people. Like, there is a position for everyone on that field. And if on the field isn't right for you, there are volunteer opportunities off the field, right? So there's room for everyone. And I look at real estate in that same vein. It doesn't matter what we look like. There's an amazing realtor in Arizona who is tattooed head to toe, including his face. And people gave him a lot of resistance coming into the industry. And I'm tattooed, not on my face. But I'm not opposed to it. Like, I think he's a great looking dude and I adore him, and he's just a big old teddy bear. But he's breaking barriers down by just being himself 100% of the time. And I like this concept of, I just want to be me, and I want to be a magnet to attract people that want to work with just this little level of crazy, right? So it's a really great interview opportunity, right? So they get to see you perform in a way, and then they get a read on you about, yeah, she's a good fit for me, or she's not a good fit for me. And both of those answers are welcomed, right? Because we can't possibly help everyone anyway. So I'm a sarcastic and funny and witty, and I love hecklers in the audience. I'm a heckler in the audience myself, so I'm always looking for my people. Like, where are my hecklers? Sit up front so I don't miss a word of what you say. And just I build off of the energy and the synergy that's in the room. And so that was an interesting layer for me in my career. And let's face it, the traveling and speaking, the best return on investment there are the relationships, the growth, of course, but the referral opportunities, right? Having people that know you and trust you around the country reach out to me all the time. Even I can't serve all of Illinois. I have no interest, but anyone can reach out to me and say, hey, Sam, I'm looking for someone in, this suburb of Illinois. Can you recommend someone? And I'm all about that, like karma currency all day long. Like, how do we connect good people together? And I'm happy to be that connector in the middle. And then, of course, over time, it becomes, we're looking for people in the areas that you serve. And then I get gifted these opportunities to work on behalf of my peers to take care of their clients. And it's all because I said yes to giving back to my industry in a way.
Yeah, it's all about that dharma. And I'm a strong believer. I don't know if do you remember this show that was on My Name is Earl? Do you remember?
It sounds familiar, but I'm really terrible at pop culture and all things.
This is very 2005. This is very
okay.
2000. But it was
okay.
Oh well, it's just a show about dharma, and I also do my life around it. And sometimes I even like put points in my mind. Then okay,
nice.
I did this good, So I'm gonna. Of course, I'm not keeping track, but it's like, okay, my dharma score is actually good this week. Like, it's gonna be a good next week,
Yep, I have a similar approach. Like I'm really big about at the grocery stores, picking up legacy grocery carts that are just laying around and just helping the workers re-corral them. Right. I was taking one for the team for my, my other human being who didn't put it where it belonged. Right. And I'm not judging the other human being for not having put it where it belonged, except probably slightly based on the tone. But I'm also happy to put it away myself. Right. I'm just like good Samaritan act of the day. That's kind of how I relate to it. And so like just the other day, Jen and I were walking down a sidewalk, and it became very clear to Jen that this couple needed some directional help. As they're standing on the corner and they're not real sure which way to go. And so Jen approached them. So before they approached us to be like, hey, can you help me? Jen approached them and said, hey, you guys need some help with directions? And they could have been like, no, we're good, and felt some kind of way. But they were like, we'd love help. And so they needed to know where like North Wacker was or whatever. And they were so close. And so Jen was not only able to like direct them physically, like you're going to go here and you're going to turn right and your restaurant's going to be right there on the right. She was able to show the husband on his phone, right? So here's where you are and here's where you're going. And here's sort of how, if you held your phone, it would give you that visual. And so it was really, really awesome. And then I'm like, good Samaritan act of the day. Now we can be heathens. Let's go. What are we going to do?
Yeah. And I think we need more human beings like that, and it's not like we look at it in with a second interest. I think, of course, the main interest is helping, and I'm always also looking out for those people that are lost or they don't know what to do. And it's like, hey, my friend, do you need a little help? It's almost like I'm trying to sell something, but I'm just trying to sell my niceness.
And I think if your approach is that you're not attached to the outcome of where that conversation goes or what they really need from you goes, then I think that you're winning already.
Yeah, for sure. And
sorry to cut you off.
No, it's okay. Well, let's continue winning. And I just want to know more about your day to day. So I think we got some a lot of nuggets here. I think we could have more than one happy meal, but I want to understand if you are still a producer, or do you mainly just coach? So are you still in production?
Yeah. So, it became pretty clear to me that being a transactional real estate day to day just wasn't enough of a challenge in the way that I'm looking to be challenged, as it were, as an individual. So in 2013, I decided I want to focus my energy and efforts on the listing side of the business, right? So not unlike the Keller Williams, millionaire real estate agent, where it's listings, leads, and leverage. I kind of took that to heart and was like, listen, if I can get a buyer's agent that I can trust, that I can train and follow my models and systems, then I can focus on the listing side and like rainmake, right? So bring in some opportunities for us as a team, that I can focus on the listing side. And also my hope was, and I just, I'm glad that it worked out this way. It opened up the opportunity for me to do the things that I'm passionate about: travel, speak, mentor, train, pour back into our industry and volunteerism. Because in my opinion, in our industry, the buyer side can potentially be much more time consuming and taxing on us, right? All the imagine in the city of Chicago, right? The driving from property to property, the finding the parking spot, the legal parking spot, and then walking to the property wherever it is. And if your client's driving separate, now you double that, and then go to the next property, the same dominoes. So lining all of that up and working that is exhausting. And I loved it. I love pouring into the buyers because they're so hungry for the intel. You have a really great opportunity to grow trust with them by just sharing with them all kinds of information that they can fact check themselves. And then validate that you really are there to be a support role for them. So in 2013, I got my first buyer's agent, and it was a blessing. Like, what an amazing journey we had. And I'm on my second buyer's agent at this time, and it's really just been amazing. So I get to Joe Gallagher is my business partner and my buyer's agent on our Pride Home Chicago team. And he wasn't in real estate. And so I got to, pour into him like, hey, here's the way I do stuff. Let's now grow this together. So I value his input. I value where he wants to take us. I don't micromanage him on the buyer side of things. I just go with faith and trust that I've trained him well, and he's doing an amazing job, and he's an amazing asset and just an amazing human being. And so that made a really big difference to me. Another nugget, if it were, is I talk to people constantly, and they share, of course, they can't help it, some of their frustrations that they're having, right, in their career, in their system, or in their process. And one of the things that I encourage them to do is, as soon as you're frustrated with a, cog in the wheel, find a way to have someone else deal with that, right? So for me, it was scheduling the buyer side showings, because it takes time, right? If I want to show 13 properties to a buyer in a few hour window, there's a lot of logistics that go into that. And the first set of logistics are, what properties do they want to see? What order should we see them in? And then can my peer on the other side allow that possibility for it to work in the timeline that works for us, in the order that works for us? And so it became really hard to do that for each of the buyer showings we had coming up, and also have a life and work on the other parts of the business as a solo agent, right? So the first thing I hired off for someone to do was schedule the buyer side showings. It gave me so much of my life and time back, that I just loved the industry again. So instead, as soon as you find yourself waking up and being really frustrated with a certain task or a certain process, find a way, like focus on that being your number one. How do I get that off my plate? What's the value of getting that off my plate? And, compensating someone appropriately to do that task for you. It's amazing how much you'll just love what you're doing again. And then when you hit that wall, another wall where you're frustrated, do the same thing and try to insert technology as a solution before you have to add a human being whenever possible, right? Like, drip campaigns and those kind of like really relevant, obvious things. But buyer side showings tend to need to be physically handled by a human being, because there's a lot of communication back and forth with the parties.
For now, at least for now.
For now.
We don't
Good
know.
point.
We don't
In
know.
this technology landscape. No, absolutely.
But yes, I'm here. We totally agree with that. And we had a very interesting guest, which was Nolly Williams. I don't know if you know him, but he's a big fan of delegating. And he's saying, like, delegate what you hate. And
yeah, it's a great way to say it.
Yeah, and he's a big believer. He says, like, he only works 3 hours on 3 hours a day on dollar making activities, and everything that another human being can do, you should delegate. Like outsource. Like be ready to, when it's time to shine, it's time to shine. Like you're not thinking about this, you're not thinking about that. So we totally agree with what you're saying. So how many of you are at the Pride Homes team?
It really is just the two of us, Joe and I.
Nice.
Yeah. At this time. And I've never been of the mindset where I wanted to lead a team. I've had people approach me over the years that wanted to be a part of a team with me. And so I've only dabbled in it from that perspective, because I've never been one who wanted to be responsible for someone else's success, if that makes sense. I always felt that put a lot of pressure on me that I wasn't interested in carrying. And so if they wanted a team, I would encourage them to go to a bigger, dynamic, successful team. But one of the first people that I had on a team was because they approached me and said, "Hey, can we do something together?" And I said, "Yeah, let's do it." And it was a really amazing, wonderful experience. And then they wanted to leave and go to another company. And of course, I supported that. I want them to, grow and do what's right and meaningful for them. Not unlike me changing companies. I think a huge takeaway from that experience, outside of the how to interview and how to create an exit strategy, is this idea of poking your head up above the clouds in whatever industry you're in periodically, and just learning about what are other companies doing? Like, what's the latest and greatest tech that's out there? Pay attention to the news articles about up and coming companies like an EXP, or, what Compass was doing when they launched here in Chicago. But pay attention to the industry around you, and don't hesitate being interviewed. Take the interviews. If somebody wants to teach you a little bit about what their company's about, take that interview, learn about that company, because if nothing else, in conversation with someone else who's looking for a brokerage, maybe that's exactly what they're looking for in a brokerage, and you can guide them to a successful result for their own future. Because I feel like that's one of the things that's lacking in our industry, is a brand new realtor coming in. How do they know where to hang their license? Who's guiding them through that process to find a place to land that's meaningful for what they want to accomplish very early in their career? And then throughout their career, move companies if it's appropriate to move companies, because guess what? You're the independent contractor here. It all falls on your shoulders to be happy and satisfied where you are, right? You're your own sub sandwich. So if you're not satisfied with what's going on, learn about the other solutions and then make your move strategically and appropriately when it's the right thing to do.
Exactly. And yeah, and you know, Sam, I don't know if you're happy or not, or if you're gonna make another change, but I was gonna ask about your future. So Sam, what are your goals, and where do you go from here?
I think I love traveling. I like, my dream legit is to live in a luxury van. Like Mercedes has this amazing luxury van with 6 different layouts. So there's one layout in particular that I'm really adamant about. I'm pretty sure it's Unity. And I want to live in a luxury van with my wife and our 2 dogs. I would permit a company to wrap our van, allow me to travel across the country, speak, train, mentor, and be a moving billboard for, a company or an organization, and just pour it back into our industry, right? I can do real estate. I've been practicing for 20 years now, and it's very clear to me that I can still list and sell a property without physically being here in Chicago. It's not an essential piece of our business in some respects. Is it helpful? Absolutely. But is it a requirement? I don't think so. And I think, with the technology landscape that we have and the experiences that we just went through in the past couple of years, using technology, not unlike us right now, being able to see each other and be in each other's space, that's what I do with my sellers. Like, they could be in Hawaii, but have a place in Chicago that they want to sell, and it's tenant occupied. Are we going to all meet there at the property? No, we're not. And we don't need to. So I'll do a Zoom call with the owner, learn a little bit about them, build trust with them, do the same thing with the tenant, have the tenant walk me around the property, take way less of their time, knock it out, and then run the comps and, build the relationship with the tenant for access. And you don't need to physically be present to do some of that.
All right. And so it'll be a nomad realtor going around
exactly
the US and internationally, right? Why not?
And internationally, yeah. As long as we can cross borders, we'll do it. There's ferries, so we can put that van on a ferry and on our way.
You can go to
but that's sort of it. Well, not unlike me not wanting to be stationary in an office cubicle. Like, I can't. Corporate America doesn't work for me. Office cubicle doesn't work for me. Even in my own home, I have a standing sit desk. I have a square bike that sits under it so I can self-entertain myself while I'm working or listening to a podcast. I want one of those walking treadmills, right? I think that'd be a really brilliant addition. But I also have a desk to my left that gives me another space to sit on and a different view in my condo. And I sit at my island, and I'll work from my couch, and I'll work from my recliner, and I'll work from my dining room table. And more importantly, we have a 20-foot balcony. And so we have a 3-person couch that's out there, a large umbrella and 2 smaller umbrellas, because we're on the west side. And so I have to track the sun throughout the day so I can still work with my technology and it stay cool enough. We've got 2 Adirondack chairs out there. And so I will pony up out there we have power. So I'll pony up there with my laptop. I have one of those espresso monitors. I don't know if people are familiar with this, but it's one of the greatest additions to my toolbox these days. It's a standalone, a very thin monitor by Espresso, like the coffee, ESPRESSO. And they just came out with a touchscreen one, which seems pretty badass. But it legit, just you plug your computer into it with one special USB-C cable. My computer provides power to this monitor. And now I have like 2 13-inch monitors side by side working outside. And working from anywhere. I can have like dual monitor situation super simply and elegantly. What were you going to say?
I was just saying, it should definitely create a promo code for that, so you can get some affiliate commissions coming your way, But thanks for sharing, Sam. Even
you betcha.
If it's a product, usually people they don't like to talk about like products that they're not their own, But I can see, like, if you're a believer and want to help, why not?
I'm known by my closest friends. Like, I'll come over and, I want to share, right? And I want to show off like the latest thing that I found that I'm in love with. And so I have friends that are like, Sam, you can't come over for a while because I really just don't want to buy anything new. They're like, you make me buy stuff all the time.
Exactly. I bet
It's awesome.
around Christmas, everyone is calling you for recommendations.
Right. Exactly. That's awesome.
But yeah, Sam, how can our audience reach you? They've heard some nuggets here. Maybe they're angry for more. So tell me. I know that is Ask for Sam, right?
Yeah. You can, if you just did a search for Ask for Sam, and it wasn't obvious that it was one of me, throw realtor in there too, and you can't go wrong. Right. So Sam Powell, realtor, you can find me. But Ask for Sam is my handle on absolutely every platform. So I'm easy to locate in that respect, right? On Twitter and on Instagram and on Facebook, and LinkedIn as well. So those are sort of the main social experiences that I sort of partake in. I'm a huge TikTok fan as a user, not so much as a presenter on there. Although I keep promising that I'll start showing off things like my favorite technological pieces and why, because everything I buy, I like it to also be travelable, so that if I needed to set up a studio like yourself on a remote basis, like how can I do that in a way where it's my stuff and I know how it works and I know how to connect it and know how to play in it and it feels comfortable. So that's sort of my mainstay. Is I love technology and I love technology that's portable.
Nice. And yeah, thanks, Sam. It's Ask for Sam, and we got Sam here on the podcast, and thank you so much for coming here, and I hope that you loved it, because
thank you so much.
I sure did.
And if I could be a resource to anyone in any way, listen, we're not attached to the outcome. We just want to share. So if you have questions or you want some guidance and advice, or you're looking for a speaker, a trainer, or educator, it doesn't even have to necessarily be me. I've got a resource of other amazing humans that I co-collaborate with, as well as a solo. So don't hesitate to reach out. We'd love to continue the conversation.
Perfect. And that's a perfect takeaway. And yeah, we'll talk soon, Sam. Thank you.
Thank you so much.